Africa is getting younger fast. In fact, Africa is already the youngest continent on Earth, and its population is still growing at a pace no other region can match. By the middle of this century, roughly one out of every four people on the planet will be Africans. That sounds like a statistics you might hear in a textbook, but in reality, it's something much bigger because population trends don't just shape societies, they shape economies, politics, migration, and even global power. And depending on how things unfold, Africa's youth boom could either become one of the greatest economic stories of the 21st century or a source of long term instability felt far beyond the continent itself. So the real question is not whether Africa's young population matters, is what happens if opportunity fails to keep up with it. To understand why this matters, let's start with the numbers. The median age in Africa today is just under 20 years old. In Europe, it's over 40. In Japan, it's close to 50. That means African societies are dominated by young people, students, job seekers, first time voters, and first time workers, while many advanced economies are aging rapidly. At the same time, Africa's population is expected to double by 2050. This combination, rapid population growth and a very young population, is rare in modern history. But population size alone isn't the issue. The real challenge lies in something else: how fast economies can absorb millions of new workers every year. But formal job creation hasn't kept pace. In many countries, education systems are improving, but not fast enough. And even when young people graduate, they often face a difficult reality. There simply aren't enough stable jobs waiting for them. As a result, a large share of Africa's workforce operates in the informal economy, small businesses, street trading, short term work, or self employment. This doesn't mean young Africans lack ambition or creativity. In fact, entrepreneurship is everywhere. The problem is scale. Without strong industrial growth, infrastructure investments, and access to capital, informal work struggles to turn into long term economic security. And when millions of young people feel stuck, educated, connected, but underemployed, pressure begins to build. Large youth population don't automatically lead to instability, but they amplify existing weakness. When governments struggle to provide jobs, housing, or basic services, frustration grows. That frustration can take many forms. Sometimes it shows up as protest, sometimes as migration, both within countries and across borders, and in fragile regions. It can make recruitment easier for armed groups or criminal networks. In parts of the Sahel, for example, young people face a combination of unemployment, insecurity, and weak state presence. In those conditions, demography don't cause conflict, but they can make conflict harder to contain. The same dynamic has appeared in different ways across North Africa, West Africa, and parts of East Africa over the past 2 decades. What matters here is not ideology, but pressure. A young population magnifies whatever system it operates within, strong or weak. Of course, this is no longer just an African issue. For Europe, Africa's demography shapes migration patterns and labor markets. For global investors, they represent both risk and opportunity. For policymaker, for policymakers rather, they raise questions about security, development, and long-term partnership. At the same time, Africa's youth population could become one of the world's largest workforce at a moment when aging societies are facing labor shortages. That's why governments, corporations, and international institutions are watching these trends closely. The outcome will influence global economies for decades to come. There's a term economists often use for this situation, which is demographic dividend. It refers to the economic boost a country can experience when a large working age population is productively employed. Some regions in Asia experience this during periods of rapid growth. Africa could too, but timing matters. Education, healthcare, infrastructure, and job creation all need to expand quickly enough to keep pace with population growth. If they do, Africa's youth could drive innovation, consumption, and economic expansion on a massive scale. If they don't, the pressure will continue to build. The window is open, but it isn't unlimited. Africa's young population is neither a cause nor a guarantee of success. It is a force that will shape politics, economies, and global relationships throughout the 21st century. Whether it becomes a source of stability or a strain depends less on demographics themselves and more on the choices made today. Because in geopolitics, demography isn't destiny, but ignoring it has consequences.